Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I have 9 AeroGarden tips to share with you. So let's get started with the video. Tip number 1. Tip number 1 is to pollinate your tomato plants and other fruiting plants by hand. There is no need for any fancy equipment, especially when you are starting out as a beginner and you are not sure if you want to stick with this as a hobby or whether you want to invest more in equipment, especially because the AeroGardens are so expensive. So I'm going to show you how I pollinated my tomato plants by hand. So here you can see some blooms. What I do is I just tap the branches around the flowers. I've seen a lot of people say that they use Q-tips to touch from one flower to the other, but then I think that's kind of like disturbing for the plant, so I haven't used that tip at all. I just tap this lightly every day whenever I go around watering my other plants. So I just tap the plants and that spreads the pollen around quite well. You can sometimes actually see the pollen flying out if there are a lot of flowers on your plants. So that's a great tip to start with. Tip number 2 is to observe your plants and pick any fruit almost immediately when they ripen. So as you can see, some of my heirloom cherry tomatoes are slowly turning red, but right now they're like orange. There's one that's turning yellow, but I have heard that you should pick your tomatoes within 12 hours of them turning completely red, because if you leave them on the plant for longer, they absorb a lot more of the water and the skin begins to split and it gets messy. There'll be like fruit flies attracted to that, and then you may not get a good looking fruit. So always check your plants every day, especially if you have tomatoes ripening, and pick them as soon as you see them turning red. Tip number 3 is to always check the roots. Check the roots of your AeroGardens and make sure that they are white in color and that they are not dark brown or slimy. If they are dark brown and slimy, it means they have root rot, and the rotten roots will, another way to check for them is that they'll get smashed and they will fall apart whenever you touch them. As you can see, most of the AeroGarden roots are white and they look really healthy. So if you find a rotten root portion, make sure that you trim it off, and this is so that you stop the damage and prevent it from spreading to the other roots. Tip number 4 is also related to looking at your garden and observing it every day. So if you begin to see flowers falling off the stems, like these over here from my tomato plants, if you see them fall off, that means that they were not pollinated, so they haven't turned into fruit. So you make sure that each branch is pollinated by tapping it like I showed you in tip 1, and make sure that they are getting a chance to bear fruit. Some other reasons why the plants may be shedding their flowers are because of extremes of temperature. So try to keep your AeroGardens indoors between a temperature of above 60 degrees Fahrenheit and below 80 degrees Fahrenheit, because sudden changes in temperature or extremes of temperature can cause your plant to, like the flowers to dry and shrivel and fall off. So I had left my AeroGarden at home unattended while I was on a business trip. So when I came back, I have found a lot of these flowers that fell off, probably due to my air conditioning and heater not circulating the air properly when I was not at home. So that's a lesson learned, and I will make sure to set the temperature high enough so that this doesn't happen in the future. Tip number 5. Tip number 5 is to support the branches of fruiting plants using either string to tie it to the light as I've done here for my tomato plants. I have also seen other people use like the wire tomato cages that you get in stores, and turn it upside down over this plant and use that to support the branches. This is because once the plants have a lot of fruit, the branches are really delicate and they become too heavy, and they are not able to support these many fruit, and that can cause the branches to break, and also like uneven circulation of light, because all these leaves kind of block out the light from the lower leaves and flowers. So it's always important to support your plants. You can also use like wire shelving systems and keep these AeroGardens on wire shelving systems. They are available in Amazon and other home stores. You can use that to keep the plants on them, and use the surrounding wire shelves and string to tie the plants and hold them up. Tip number 6. Do not mix herbs with flowering plants because their nutrient requirements are different. Like if you do mix both of them together, either one type of plant will be deprived of the proper nutrients they need, and this will cause their growth to suffer. Peppers or chili plants and tomato plants need more nutrients than herbs, and also flowering plants have different requirements. So if you add more nutrients for certain plants, the other plants will get too many nutrients, and this will cause their leaves to get burned, and this is called nutrient burn, and this will prevent the plants from growing properly. So make sure that you have separate AeroGardens for different types of plants. Here I have planted cascading petunias. They are just sprouting. I planted them just last week. So I have kept both the slots open only with cascading petunias. I have one more spot open, but I have not planted anything in it because I want the flowers to have their own space and grow well with the nutrients that they need. Tip 7. If your tomato plants have a lot of green fruit, but if they are not ripening, it may be because the plants are overburdened and because they do not have energy to ripen all the fruit. One way to help tackle this is to remove some branches by trimming them off from the plant, or by removing some of the fruit to conserve energy that the plant needs to grow. Now let's go on to tip number 8. Tip number 8 is to try other things to help ripen the plants. One thing what you could do is to keep the AeroGarden in a warmer place in your home, probably not near the windows during winter. Try to keep it in the middle of your room, or towards the warmer portions of your room that you use often. You can also use a space heater in the room to increase the the surrounding temperature near the AeroGardens, but ensure that you do not keep the space heater or any other heater directly in front or next to the plant. This will cause the leaves to dry out really fast and can actually burn the delicate smaller leaves and flowers of the tomato plant. So make sure you keep it a little bit away, at least 6 feet away, not anything nearby. Make sure that you keep the temperature under 78 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, because if it goes over that, again the plants will burn, and it may also damage the plastic and equipment of your AeroGarden, like the motor and the lights, etc. Now we come to the final tip of today's video. That is, rinse and refill the water completely once a month in each of your AeroGardens. This is so that you can change the water during every alternate time of feeding your plants. This will remove any waste nutrients. It also helps with ripening the plants because they get fresh water and nutrients. And you can also clean out any pollen that has fallen into the water, any algae that has formed, any root rot that caused roots to fall off or crumble into the water, and you can clean up all of that. So as I believe in keeping things simple, I have not gone for any expensive equipment, and I have just used this. This is an aquarium siphon that you can buy off Amazon. It's not very expensive. And this is what I use to change the water. I put this into the AeroGarden reservoir, and I put this end into a waste bucket, and it will pull out all the old water from the AeroGarden reservoir. If the roots of your plants are really small, you can actually just take it to a wash basin and pour out the water. But my plants are kind of well developed, and the roots are really big and very well interlaced, so it is very difficult for me to take it to the wash basin and pour the water out. So this is a really useful gadget to have around. You can, if you have aquariums, you probably have this lying around already. So that's a great thing to use to clean the water and help your plants grow well. I hope you enjoyed this video with more AeroGarden tips for beginners. If you want to see more such videos from me, be sure to subscribe to my channel and turn on the notifications. Don't forget to like this video if you found it useful and share it with your friends. To check out my previous AeroGarden tips video, click the link in the description box below. I also have an entire playlist for my other AeroGarden videos, so I will leave a link to that as well. That's all from me for now. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.